Hey, Get Fox here. Today I got a video describing every single pitch in MLB The Show 17. I was kind of interested to see how all these things break, at what velocities they are. So we'll take a look at the fastball changeup combos first. So four-seam fastball, we got it maxed out. And everything here, all the changeups, we got a Vulcan Change palm ball, and what was the other one? Circle change, right? So they're all 84. All of them go at 84 speed for the changeups. Generally, I did generic windup 1, and then I'll end up doing generic windup 3. But for this video, I just want to kind of go like the faster the pitch, generally the less it breaks. Here's a fastball. I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of these things. Here, I'm just going to show off his two different motions here. So this is, pretty normal. Four-seamer, hit it pretty high. Now here's windup 3. Four-seamer, we'll just throw it down the middle of the plate, see how fast it can go. All right, 101. Not so bad. All right, now so the circle change. Like I said, this is the max velocity, so it's not going to break as much. But look, it kind of's got some arm side run. This is on windup 1, but still pretty good. All right, so for windup 3 here, we have the same. So circle change, it doesn't look like the path changes whether you're in the overhand or sidearm, but it's got some arm side run. The palm ball is much more vertical than the circle change there. So you see how he says more of like a vertical break. Now here's one towards the edge. But so yeah, let's run more of like a straight down. So it really comes down to preference or what you think batters are going to chase at a little bit more. Here's with the sidearm motion, still the same vertical break on it. So interesting that the motions don't change that one or these ones too much at all. There are certain pitches that does change. We'll get to those in a little bit. Change up there, very standard change up. It kind of runs here, I think, with the arm motion. Yeah, a little bit of run. Not terrible. Let's watch another one. Another change up here. This one's down the middle. Yeah. So pretty vertical there. The Vulcan change literally looked exactly the same as the changeup. I didn't see anything really different here. Kind of a vertical, a little bit, very slightly. It felt like a little bit of arm side run. Not as vertical as the palm ball, in my opinion, but the Vulcan basically goes up and down no matter what you do. So the changeups are all very similar. They don't really make that big of a difference. The biggest thing with changeups, is the velocity if it's in the fastball. But all right, so the Slurve, max velocity, slider 91, 87 for the Slurve. Splitter and Forkball max out at 92. So they're kind of like faster changeups that just fall off the table a little bit. There's the Forkball coming in. Once again, this one's got some good arm side movement and a lot of breaking pitches. You'll see this more with the curveballs. Depends on the game, the RNG, whether they're going to give you more arm side break or not on that pitch or not. So like you can see these art changes. We'll get to that with the Screwball. We'll show that in a little bit more detail. But the Forkball, basically, the fork and the splitter, which we'll get to, they really fall off a table. So they're pretty fast. This is going to 92. I don't know if you want a Forkball or a splitter that fast, because really its benefit is looking exactly like a fastball. All of a sudden it's 6 inches lower. So that's pretty tough for a hitter. I've seen some pitchers use some pretty effective splitter forkball stuff in the game. It's one of my favorite pitches. We'll talk about at the end which ones I like the best. But yeah, splitter forkball, essentially the same for both the sidewinder. Now here's the sidewinder motion. We'll watch it again. Comparison, yeah. Still like breaking vertically. Weird because there are, some pitchers do look a little different. Like these are only 2, and I know that's a big issue. The slider is one that definitely is different with your motion. So the overhead motion, the slider doesn't break as much horizontally, whereas the vertical pitches, they tend to break just a little bit more vertical, or the fastballs, we'll get to that in a second. They tend to be more up and down with the vertical motions. With the sidewinder, now watch how far this thing just absolutely slides on the table, much more than the overhead motion for these sideways ones. So that's something that's interesting about sliders. They actually slide a little bit more horizontally. There's more horizontal movement when you're throwing horizontal, I guess, is the takeaway. And it's pretty, self-evident. So here's the Slurve. It's kind of like a sweeping fastball, but a little bit faster. We'll get to the sweeping fastball or sweeping curveball in a little bit. Sorry, I'm mumbling here. I'm making some bad word choices. See how this one's much more horizontal for this Slurve, even though it's the same pitch. So yeah. Slurve, similar to a slider that way, but a little bit slower, a little bit more vertical break. Now let's get to the fastballs. Overall, it's making sense so far. Nothing's really too surprising, but it is interesting to see the different breaks. Now we'll take a look at different fastballs. That was a two-seamer. That was a cutter. This is the running fastball. Looks a lot like a two-seamer. And here's the sinker. Much more break. And the differences in velocity, basically what I found through this whole thing, to sum it up, the running fastball and the two-seamer are essentially the same. The cutter, beautiful. I love the cutter. It's probably going to be, if I'm going to make my cap a pitcher, or he is a pitcher, the cutter is going to be my first pitch. That you don't see too much horizontal movement on the near side of the plate to the arm, but on the far side of the plate, much more like a slider, but a cutoff slider. Now against generic windup 3. Now here's something I found interesting for this cutter. It didn't see too much difference in the movement velocity. It looks a little bit more natural coming out of a sidewinder the way it cuts across. Let's take a look at this overhand cutter and then the sideways cutter after this. Like the same place, we're going with this overhand cutter. So started on one side of the plate, went to the other. Sidearm cutter. Just because it's got this motion's got a weird release point too, but yeah, still the same from one side of the plate to the other. So good movement on that cutter. Running fastball looks a lot like a two-seamer. You're gonna be like, hey, that's a two-seamer. It's just got a funky name. It's kind of like the Vulcan Change and Changeup. I would compare it to this running fastball and the two-seamer. Very, very similar movement. Same speed out of the hand too. So really, basically take the one you want with more like if you're making your cap or your Diamond Dynasty or your Road to the Show player. If you're making them, you can choose whatever name you like better, two-seamer or running. I like a running fastball because you see a lot of people with two-seamers. You're like, whoa, what's a running fastball do? It's the same thing as two-seamer, but it's just named differently. So nothing too exciting here. I really wish it had a little bit more movement on it, kind of like a real-life Chapman, but it is just not that way. All right, so here's the two-seamer. Wow, it's like we just saw this. Same speed as we saw at the beginning of this fastball session. I guess I could probably cut out a couple of these clips because you've seen them, but I don't know. Do you think there should be better like description from San Diego Studio about what these balls do, like how they move? I mean, I know different, like I said earlier, different velocities affect movement, different break numbers affect movement. It'd be kind of cool to have some sort of breakdown where if you get up to like a 90, like maybe they could do like 80, 90, 70, like how many inches vertically, horizontally these things break. Like look at this. All right, this is the huge difference. Two-seamer. Do you see the arm side break on a two-seamer versus the overhead break? There's a little bit more. Now, see, I didn't fully test that when I was recording the footage, but it does look like there's more arm side break on a two-seamer from a sidewinder than an overhander. Yeah, sinker, that's going to move more vertically on an overhander is what I noticed. I can't slow things down and edit, put them side by side because my computer would freeze up and lock. This one, it's already froze up and locked once in this recording, and I'm sorry for making excuses. But sinker, you could throw it high. It's not generally the best idea, but if you could throw a 95 sinker, it's still going to do some damage. It's better moving low to generate ground balls here, especially below the zone. But the sinker, a little bit more dramatic of a two-seamer, basically. Here's the sinker from the sidewinder. That one was a bad one, left in the middle of the plate. Let's try and go to the ground here. Yeah, quite a bit more horizontal but less vertical movement on the sinker for sidewinder. So I think a sinker is a better pitch for a overhand thrower than a sidearmer, if depending on which. Or is like the slider is much better out of sidearmer. Here's the four-seamer again, just so you can compare it to the other fastballs that we were just throwing at you. So like the sidewinder will have some arm side movement on the four-seamers where you can see we're just picking off each one of our spot with the overhead. So let's do it again. Here's right down the middle. Let's see if we get any action. Yeah, definitely looks like there's more arm side action on the sidewinder than there's on the vertical guys. Like this looks kind of like a two-seamer almost, the way the four-seamer breaks on us. Now on to curveballs. We have the Knuckle Curve. We got the sweeping curve 12-6 and the regular curveball. Now, this is going to be pretty interesting things that you're going to see here depending on their alignment. We also have the screwball there that I just added in. So there's the pitch types. Got on one screen for you. All right, so first is Knuckle Curve. That's kind of the break of it. I'll step off. Screwball kind of goes across the arm angle, which makes sense. The 12-6 is more vertical on the break. The curveball, this is the one that really is affected by your arm angle. And then the sweeping curve is much more of a horizontal curve, kind of, like that's the Slurve-ish type of curveball. Now here's the same pitches from the angle, from the sidewinder angle. Screwball still across the edge. There's the 12-6, much more vertical. The curveball. Wait, no, that was the. I think that was the curveball still. All right, well let's just take a look. Anyways, we'll get to them all individually. Here's the Knuckle Curve. All right, yeah, kind of like even with the overhand, kind of a horizontal, vertical type thing. But it will go more vertical when you throw it to the near side of the plate of the arm. Whereas the far side of the plate, it does break further away and more horizontal. So like if you throw it high or if you throw it, depends on what part of the zone you throw it to, the break that's going to be on it, of course. So now here's the Sidewinder wind up for this same one. Looks like the exact same pitch. So the art on this pitch is the exact same for the two different motions, Sidewinder and over the top. So that's something I'll have to take a look at. I mean, if you want something that breaks exactly like this, the Knuckle Curve. I don't love the Knuckle Curve in comparison to like the Screwball, because people don't really see the Screwball very often, whereas the Knuckle Curve is much like a knuckle. Now watch this art. Look at that. That art is different than the last one. Look at how the Screwball art changes when you get out. Like, so there's much depending on which. I think it's like RNG. That like I hit that. That was a good aim there too. So you're gonna get a lot of accuracy problems with Screwballs and Curveballs, even though I got 99 control. But based on the play art, every time you select, this is a huge finding that it was really interesting to me. Every time you select, it's gonna be a different art. It's gonna be a different break. So it's you can step off the mound and get like look how much arm side run is on this one. That's crazy versus the other one. Look how much that broke away from the plate. Whereas this one's much more vertical. Like there wasn't that as much break away. That was more kind of towards the plate, towards the batter, towards the righty from a lefty. So here, this is the Sidewinder with his Screwball to that side of the plate. Not the greatest break on that one. There's, much more away from this batter. Now, here's the same one. Here's still the arm side run on the Screwball. So you could tell from this that it is different. If you don't like the art you're getting, step off the mound and get a new art picture if you want it to break away. So I did not know that before recording, that every single time it's different slightly on your curveballs here. I would imagine it's for the other pitches too. They're just not as dramatic as the curve because we can see these breaks a lot easier. So here's the regular 12-6. It's vertical unless you go to like the opposite side of the plate. Like much like other curveballs, this is the overhand version. 12-6. I like the vertical break on a 12-6. Like it's something because people. I don't know. I guess it depends on the hitter whether they're good at hitting curveballs or not. But I prefer it like straight up and down versus more of like the slurve motion of the sweeping curve that we'll get to. Here's the curveball. Now this one's the one so the 12-6 is very consistent between the two, Sidewinder and the overhand. This one is the difference between look at the art here. This is kind of vertical on this curveball. There it is in the dirt. So it still breaks quite a bit. But it is wholly determined by the arm angle. Now watch with the wind up, the Sidewinder. See how much more horizontal this one is, that curveball is? Much more horizontal, it feels like. So, or it looks like. It is. So that's something that's interesting. The curveball completely depends on your arm angle of your pitcher. If that's a good thing or a bad thing, the sweeping curveball stays consistent between the two arm, is basically that I don't know. It's kind of a compromise between a slider and a curveball. It's not as fast. I think I prefer the Slurve over it, but that is the sweeping curve for you. No big deal. All right, here he is from the 3/4 angle. Still the same break in the sweeping curve. So, I guess choosing between the curveball, the sweeping curve, and all these things depends on what break you want and if you want it to vary with your guys' arm angle. The knuckleball, this one's just beautiful. So, we'll show the knuckleball. Like I said before, the lower velocity, this one's 60. It brought my four-seam fastball down 3 miles per hour, but that's not a big deal when you watch this crazy movement. So we're going to take a look at the 61 first. Now look at that break. Now look what this ball actually does. This is insane. This next one's even better. This one's beautiful. Wait for it. Oh, man. That's like above his head to it. Now if you turn his velocity up to 73 miles per hour, so 13 miles per hour faster, see how it's less of a art angle on it, and definitely doesn't break as much. Not nearly as cool when it's really fast. So I know you can't have knuckleballs in Diamond Dynasty with your creative player because it's dirty. Now here's a Sidewinder just to show that knuckleballs don't change between the Sidewinder and the overhead character. So this is another one that's a non-changing pitch. But overall, we'll take a look at this last knuckleball, the slow one, and I'll talk about my thoughts. I like fastballs. I like the cutter. I think if I were to make a pitcher, and this is what I'm going to use: cutter, sinker. I would use a forkball or a splitter. I think maybe the forkball's better, but I kind of already committed to the splitter, and I've improved for the player. And then I would go with like a slurve. I think a slurve's a good combination for an overhead pitcher. But that's it. Thanks for watching. Call to action. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. I'll try to answer them. and I'll talk to you tomorrow.